My name is Mark. I'm one of the senior leaders for the University of North Texas Learning Center. Today, we're going to be talking about a really important aspect of being an SI leader, and that's your planning sheet. Your planning sheet should be detailed and easy to follow. You should be able to give your planning sheet to any random SI leader, and they would be able to facilitate your planned session without any further details.
Hi, I'm Tina. I'm also a senior leader here at the University of North Texas Learning Center. Today we're going to go over some must-haves when planning the session. So first, an objective. Your objective should be clear and concise and relate to what you want your students to accomplish. VARK stands for Visual, Auditory, Reading, Writing, and Kinesthetic Learning Styles. VARK allows your students to learn in a variety of ways. Group work is really important because it allows your students to collaborate and share ideas with one another. And board work is essential because not only does it hit your VARK styles, but it also gives your students study material to take home.
Up next, I'll be talking to you about the last few points of must-haves for creating your planning sheet. The work is essentially your content for the session. It's everything you plan for the students to do while they're present there. The how is your facilitation of the work. It should include details like group size or how you plan to divide the work among students. Together, the work and the how essentially create your activities. It's also really important to be mindful of a flow to your session. For instance, if you wanted to cover both vocabulary and practice problems, it would be wise to incorporate the vocabulary into an activity before the practice problems rather than after. Next, we're going to be talking to you a little about the SI model and components that we typically look for in each activity. The first part of the SI model is the icebreaker. Tina, what do you think makes a good icebreaker?
That's a good question, Mark. Thanks for asking. So an icebreaker, that's just what it is. It breaks the ice. One of the things about the icebreaker that we don't want to see is that you just ask your students for their name and their major. With the icebreaker, we want you and your students to create those relationships. So asking them questions about how their weekend went, how their week was, or even just playing some games like the concentration game. What else, Mark?
Maybe even 2 truths and a lie.
Yeah.
I see that's another good one. The initiating activity should be something that eases your students into the session. It's important to engage their school thoughts before moving on to more complex material. It's important not to overwhelm your students with information early on in the session. Otherwise, they may mentally check out and not take home much from the session. A better idea is to start out with more basic material and build up from there. Next, Tina's going to talk to you a little about constructing and utilizing activities. Take it away.
Thanks, Mark. So the construction activity basically builds off the initiating activity and allows students to think more in depth, engages them, and prepares them for the utilizing activity. Now, the utilizing activity will take all that information students learn throughout the session and then use it for practice material. So now, last but not least, Mark, tell us about the closure.
The closure is a really important part of your session. It's something that tends to be forgotten about because it's towards the end and typically the shortest activity. But it cannot be forgotten about because it provides students an opportunity to think and wind down about the session they just learned about and maybe spur some reflection towards the end. So in summary, obviously you can't fit every detail onto a single piece of paper, but you should include a clear outline of what you want to cover and how you plan to facilitate it.
Yeah, Mark, great explanation. In simpler terms, just ask yourself the following questions. What are you going to do? What are your students going to do? And how are your students going to accomplish that?
So essentially what we're telling you is that you don't need to be overly specific because, for instance, if you had a session of 4 students compared to a session of 12 students, the way you split them into groups and divide the work will probably differ. So it's helpful to include details like small groups, medium-sized groups, or large groups, even if you don't include a specific number or group size.
Don't forget that if you have any material that you've made or worksheets that you've included within your session, to turn them in with your planning sheet to your senior leader. And of course, not every session goes the way we planned, so remember, be adaptable.
Thanks, Tina.
You're welcome, Mark.